Hey guys.
Hey guys. Sorry.
Josh and Anna here from Geeksiders, along with Mark from Enchantment of Eternity, doing our live discussion chat about Orphan Black Season 4, the entire season. We're going to be covering a lot of topics here, so we'll try not to take up too much time. Mark, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Mark from Enchantment of Eternity. I'm very eager to talk about this season of Orphan Black, which I absolutely loved. And I've been covering it on my channel as well. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Definitely, if you haven't checked out Mark's channel, check it out. I'm just going to throw that out there right now here at the beginning. But getting into the discussion, let's start with the season 4 finale. Anybody who's watched our videos, you know we really loved the finale. Mark has a slightly different take on it, which I would love to hear about.
All right, so I was a tad bit disappointed in the finale, and I think I kind of trashed it a bit in my review, which might give the false impression that I hated it, but I didn't hate it. I thought it was a good episode. Like, if I was judging it for an episode itself, I would say it was good, but as a finale, it didn't quite stack up for me. And I think a lot of that, like, I actually a bit envious of you guys for liking it, because I wanted to like a lot of that had to do with my own expectations, because I was a victim of my own expectations, because I wanted to see more Helena, I wanted to see more MK, and I didn't really need to see any more Beth references, but I would have really liked it. So there's certain things that I wanted to see that I didn't see, and plus I have never been, like, throughout the entire season on all of my reviews, I've never been a fan of the Rachel storyline or the Susan Duncan, Westmoreland, the sort of history of Neolution, and that seemed to be the focus of this episode, which I think is one of the main reasons why I didn't really care for it, because I'd never just really been into that much.
Okay, I'm with you with the not getting any MK in this episode. I really, because she was the big new clone for this season, and to exclude her from the finale, I think did that character a disservice. And I would have loved to see more Helena. Helena's my favorite clone. So
we always love to see more Helena.
Yeah, so
and she's been very not there this season.
Yeah.
That was a little disappointing.
Yeah, that would be my one complaint from the season as a whole and from the finale, was Helena just wasn't in it that much. And it was basically to make room for the story you mentioned with the history of Neolution and introducing MK as a character. So Helena didn't get nearly as much screen time as she normally would. So
yeah, I mean, I mentioned
sorry,
I mentioned in my review. What's that?
You weren't too thrilled with the finale, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it was as good as a finale. What I said in my review, like, I gave it a rating from, between 1 and 10, I gave it a 6, and I said that most finales should be an 8 at least. So I was a bit sort of disappointed that it wasn't as good as I was hoping, but I still kind of liked it. I mean, I think mainly because it was the themes of season 4 was like, Beth and MK and stuff like that, and I didn't feel like we got enough payoff, actually. I thought they left things a bit more open than they tend to, but I suppose, like, they could be thinking of season 4 and 5 as like one super long season and sort of planning it out that way.
What do you think about season 5 being the last season? We're okay with it. I think it's a good decision to leave on a high note.
And I completely agree. Like, I saw you guys' review on that, and I totally agree with you. I think it's a very smart decision to sort of have an end date for the show and leave on a high note. Leave when you're high, and rather than when the story's gone on for too long. Like, shows have done this in the past, like Breaking Bad, and had a phenomenal final season. But then the other shows like Dexter 24 just gone way past their due date, and they just end up, people think of, that show was good except for those last couple seasons where it went downhill. So if you end it before you have that, then people will think better of the show overall.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly our thoughts on it. And Dexter is the perfect example for that. Dexter was awful the last 3 seasons. It was so bad.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so moving into the broader topic of season 4 as a whole, I really enjoyed season 4.
Yeah, season 4 was really, really good.
And it's like they got back to basics this season, which I think really kind of benefited it because it kind of got a little convoluted in season 3.
Yeah, like I think season 4 was so good because it was way less confusing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I completely and totally agree. In fact, like I was a bit iffy on the show after season 3. Like I was almost like, do I still want to watch this show? But I thought, well, it's still good. I still love. I can't quite pronounce her name, but the lead actress, was it Tatiana Maslany? I think.
Yeah, Tatiana Maslany.
I
Might have been pronouncing it.
Seeing her play all those different characters, like, that's worth it alone. But after like season 3, I was kind of cold on the show. But when I watched season 4, it's almost as if the writers like read my mind and took the show in the exact direction that I thought they needed it to, and I was super impressed. Like, even though I was kind of disappointed in the finale, I still overall I loved season 4, and it's up there as one of my favorite seasons. Like, I definitely say the show has not been this good since season 1.
Yeah, I would say this is definitely the best season since season 1. And we've been joined by a special guest. She decided to jump up.
That's why I flinched. She used her claws a little.
But yeah, season 4 definitely our favorite season since season 1.
Yeah,
for sure, hands down.
Like season 1's favorite season, season 4's right after it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
So if you had to pick like the pinnacle moment from season 4, what would you say?
For me, that's quite easy. It's episode 6. Like, the whole ending of episode 6 when they killed Kendall and Evie took over in the illusion. Like, I think that might be my single favorite episode of the entire series. I was just completely blown away by it. Like, I was like in awe of like how good they made the story. It's like I always liked Orphan Black even during season 3 when it was kind of iffy, but it never really affected me very emotionally until that episode, which was like, yeah, I was feeling really dark after that one. So I quite liked it.
6 was a really good episode. It got it, like you said, the scene with Kendall. Wow, that I really
Kendall
thought,
and Cosima. Oh my god!
And for that whole thing, I kept expecting something to happen to get them both out of it okay.
Yeah.
And then when the cop executed Kendall and Cosima's reaction to that, oh my god.
Yeah.
I think if I was going to pick my peak moment from this season, it would be in episode 9 when Helena rescued the Hendrixes. Because I totally saw it coming. They telegraphed it. You could see it coming from a mile away. And it was just that anticipation after not having any Helena at all to have that moment. I think that was a huge payoff for the season for me.
Yeah, pregnant Helena with the deer slung over her shoulders. That was awesome.
Favorite moment from the season?
No, I think I agree with Mark on this favorite moment. But Cosima is my favorite clone. So, like, that was a really, really great Cosima moment. And Cosima's one of the clones that doesn't get a whole lot of screen time normally. So, yeah,
Yeah, that was a really good thing about this season. Actually, we got a lot more Cosima. I mean, it kind of sucked that they underplayed Helena, but it seemed like we got more Cosima and replacements. So they're both. I agree with you there. Well, typically, I've kind of never liked Helena in the past, but I've warmed up her a lot recently. I quite didn't buy her transition from an evil villain to like a hero in season 1 and 2, but I think by now they've sort of grown into her new character, and I've learned to accept her for who she is. But I totally agree with you on your Helena moment, and I think it made it so much better, like you said, that we hadn't seen her that much this season, because in season 3 we get a lot of like Helena killing people, which is always fun, but it was much more like fun, like seeing her just come in and shoot that guy right before he was putting that bot in Allison. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Speaking of clones that we didn't get to see a lot of this season, Allison was really kind of heavily featured in season 3, and not very much in season 4.
Yeah.
And I think that was the correct decision, because I think out of all of the clones, she is probably nobody's favorite.
I actually like Donnie more than I like Allison.
Yeah,
I love Donnie. Donnie's hilarious, especially Donnie and Helena. Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really like her as a, if she was a person in real life, I wouldn't really want to hang out with her because she's really kind of. But as a character, I really like her. I think she can drive the story. Like I was interested. Like it seemed like I loved what they did with her this season actually, because it seems like they were starting off the season with her. She was really butting heads with Sarah. And it seems like they were like not getting along at all. And then later on in the season where it looks like Allison was going to betray Sarah, which you kind of knew that she would never betray her, but it kind of sold that moment a lot more. And that's another episode I love. And it sold the moment a lot more because they sort of played this rivalry with them earlier where you actually could think maybe she might sell him off the river.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Okay, let's talk about the new clone that we met this season, MK.
yeah.
It's a real shame that she got excluded from the finale, but overall, what are your thoughts on MK?
Oh yeah, I thought she was a great introduction to the show. It was great. It's because at this stage I'm kind of like iffy about them introducing new clones, but this one, like when I first saw her, I was like, do we need it? And her accent sounded kind of like Helena's tad bit
too. Yeah.
Yeah, but then like the more we got of her, she's one of my favorite clones now. Like I absolutely loved her, and as I said, I wanted to see more of her. And the fact that she was, she's just this hacker genius, and she's actually really handy to have around. And the fact that she was like so sort of shy and like staying it just made her character so much more interesting. So yeah, I totally and I love the way that they introduced her too, but I'm sure we'll talk about that more later.
Yeah. Helena, gosh. MK ended up being one of my favorite things about season 4 is getting this new character, and she does have this kind of air of mystery about her, but she seems almost childlike compared to the other clones, although she's been surviving on her own for so long.
Yeah, she does kind of seem almost innocent, even though she's not, because she's done all this stuff and she's further ahead than Sarah was. But I don't know, she just has this air of innocence about her.
And her, you can tell she's been through a lot. Like she's had the bot and they took it out of her, and like she's got that huge scar on her face, and you know she has experienced so much and so much tragedy, and for her to still have this kind of feeling of innocence, I think is really, really great.
Yeah, and I thought they played her whole storyline this season with her relationship with Beth. It made her how her her past relationship with Beth sort of made her sort of cold, having another one with Sarah. I thought they played that so well, and it just made it such a more interesting character.
For sure. All right, you mentioned it just a few minutes ago, how they introduced MK. You want to go into it? And the first, by having a first episode be totally take place in the past and be a Beth episode, and have her and introduced her that way, so we actually get to see her during the events right before season 1, and which was a really clever way to introduce her, because it gives you this feeling like this isn't just a new character coming out of nowhere. It feels like it's a character who's been there the whole time, even though she hasn't been. But they sort of, and the way that they did the whole Beth episode, I applaud them so much. It wasn't one of my favorite episodes, but I think it was such a bold move, especially to start a season that way, because during the break, people were wanting to see their old characters. They wanted to get right back into the old story, and to take the time out to just go back in time was a really risky move, but it paid off so well, because it actually set up the season so perfectly while actually reminding us of the events of
season 1, and it just brings them both together, which is exactly what the show needed. So that's part of what I was saying, like when I said before that the writers kind of read my mind and did exactly what I thought they should do. And part of that was to bring back season 1, that feeling from season 1, which I think paid off beautifully.
I think doing the flashback in episode 1 was an absolutely genius move.
Yeah, me too. I think it's because so much of the beginning of the season related to stuff that happened in season 1. It was kind of almost like a nice refresher without being a recap. Like you kind of were reminded of some of the points in season 1 so that you could follow along when the season 4 story really started, without being like, what are they talking about? When did that happen? Did that happen? You know, like it was kind of able to merge the two.
And then introducing MK in that. Not only it was a genius bit of marketing too, because they had all the pre-released photos and stuff from the season with the masks, and that was a big part of the marketing. And then to have that, you know, introduce the clone through that was really, really smart. But then like MK meeting her in this flashback with Beth, it gives this feeling that not only is she a character that has been around for a while, but she's been in the background. We just haven't seen her. She's been watching this whole time.
Yeah.
And now, you know, we know, oh, okay, there's been somebody else here as well that we just weren't aware of.
Yeah, I thought that again, that just all this stuff that they did, I thought it was the best way to introduce a new clone and actually make her a fan favorite. Oh, well, I'm not sure. I don't have my pulse in the fandom, but I'm assuming she's a fan favorite. I love her.
I get the feeling that she's up there. I mean, if just from, you know, reading the comments in our videos and stuff, my guess it goes Helena and Cosima are the top 2. They're probably tied among the fandom. And then Sarah, and then MK, and then Allison would be the end. MK and Sarah are probably interchangeable as far as, you know, the people who love that character. Which is really unusual that the lead character in the show I don't think would make anybody's list as #1 favorite either.
Yeah.
I mean, Sarah's not really likable at all. She doesn't have a lot of redeeming qualities. An intense sense of loyalty, but that's...
Yeah, I mean, this season I did kind of get tired of her. She did kind of, at times, felt a main character trope and didn't have much personality of her own. But then that's kind of why I liked episode 7, even though that was like kind of a filler. Well, I wouldn't say filler episode, but it was a slow-paced, character-based episode right after like of episode 6. But what it served to do is to remind us of who Sarah is and how she just went out and on this bender, wanted to like commit suicide. Remind her of her beginnings in season 1, and it got me back into that character, because before I was kind of not feeling it, but after that episode, I'm into Sarah again because of that.
I should clarify. I don't dislike Sarah. I acknowledge that as a main character, she is she's kind of become like the heroine kind of trope, kind of stereotype a little bit. I don't think she has a ton of redeeming quality. She's loyal to her sisters, and she's extremely motivated, and that's kind of it. That's her character in a nutshell. And so I think in season 5, to see her adapt a little bit more, I think would be really great.
Yeah. Oh, and well, I might be skipping ahead, but it just occurred to me like another talking about Kira. I was a bit disappointed in the finale because we didn't get any more follow-up to her sort of strange visions or whatever. I guess they're leaving that till later in the series, but I was a bit disappointed because I wanted to learn more about that and what that's all about.
Yeah, after introducing that, it's going to be a real shame if they just drop it all together.
Yeah.
Like
at the same time, that story kind of worries me because it could go very out there, and I just don't think it would work with, like, if she's got some sort of psychic abilities or something like that. Like, I just don't think it works with the show too much. The show's too science-based to have something that's not quite science brought in like that. It would just be weird to me.
Going from science to pseudoscience,
Yeah,
I don't think would work for Orphan Black.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it almost feels like they're falling back on like sci-fi fantasy TV show tropes by having that storyline rather than rather than sticking to something that feels more natural for what the tone of the show has been so far. But I mean, that being said, I don't hate it, and I think they could pull it off, but it depends on where they go with it. I mean, maybe her abilities have something to do with like genetic manipulation or something like that. They could sort of bring it back together.
I don't know if they did it like she's an empath or something. I think I could get on board with that. Like, if she can just sense if someone's afraid, even if they're separated by significant distance, I would be totally okay with that.
Yeah, like it depends on how they do it, because if they do it and it's subtle, like they're messing with genetic material and DNA and stuff like that. So if it's kind of like an evolutionary process, you wouldn't have somebody who's not psychic give birth to somebody who is completely psychic. There would be like a process to that. Evolution doesn't work like that. There would be a slow process. So if it's like a partial, pseudoscience explanation, I'd be okay with that too.
Yeah, I agree. We'll just have to sort of wait and see how they take it. I think a lot of things like that are still up in the air as some of these story threads, like the whole Westmoreland thing and stuff like that. I'm still sort of a wait and see. Like, so if the payoff in season 5 is really great, it will make me look back on those aspects of season 4 better. But if the payoff is not good, then it will make me think less of season 4.
Yeah, that's the two stories I'm concerned about in season 5 are Kira and Westmoreland.
Yeah.
Because if his aging, he's 100 and something years old, and if they don't explain that in an acceptable scientific way, I'm going to be really disappointed. The same way with Kira being psychic.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, for me, it's not so much explaining the aging, but at the moment, I'm not really interested in this character, so I think they need to do something to make me more interested in him.
They didn't give us nearly enough background information on him.
They should have teased him a little bit more. They barely teased his story, and I think they should have given us a little more. We got flashes of his face, through most of the season, but then we didn't really meet him until the finale. Yeah. So I don't think we've had enough time to really become invested in that story yet.
Yeah, I don't think they started that till the midway point, sort of like the back half of the season. But
episode 5 or 6
with Rachel.
Yeah, with Rachel having those visions, and I was never on board. Like if people watch my reviews will know, as soon as they started doing those visions, I started being like, I don't like these. Again, it's a wait and see. We'll wait and see if they can pay it off.
If it was like some kind of psychic thing, I would be really irritated. But the fact that it was Delphine hacking her eye, like I think that works just fine for me. Like at first, I think I was right with you, where I was kind of iffy on them. But then once once I figured out it was somebody hacking her eye, and that it wasn't actually her, it was the eye. I think that kind of resolved that issue for the most part for me.
Yeah, I can see that, but I'm still iffy on it, but we'll see.
We mentioned Delphine. Let's dig into that. Were you surprised at all that Delphine is alive? We weren't surprised. Nope. We kind of saw that coming.
I wasn't that surprised because I watched your reviews. I was like, so as soon as they revealed it, I was like, Josh and Anna were right. Personally, like when you first brought it up, I was like, nah, that's not the case. But then they did. I don't know. I wasn't too surprised, but I'm not still sure how I feel about it. It kind of seems like they're kind of rewriting history, because I think I could just get the feeling that they had originally planned to kill her off, but then this season are like, now let's bring her back to life. And that sort of trope seems kind of like more like a soap opera, sort of thing, rather than something like a Game of Thrones bringing Jon Snow back. That felt more like they foreshadowed and they planned it all along, where this seems kind of like, oh, let's just bring her back. But that's just my take on it.
I didn't really get that sense quite as much. I think they should have brought her back earlier. I think the reveal in episode 9 and then, fully bringing her back in episode 10, I think they really should have done that a little bit sooner.
Yeah, like it was almost like they took so long to do it that you'd almost forgotten about her. And once you forget about her, you kind of don't care anymore. So it's not as like, oh my gosh, yay, she's back. But I think like she's going to be pretty instrumental in next season. So that I think that's why I didn't get the same feeling where I don't think like they killed her off and then we're like, oh no, let's bring her back. I think that was planned. Like it felt planned to me because I think she's going to be instrumental next season.
I did think it was really good seeing her and Cosima together again. I think that was a nice touch to the finale. But the thing is, when I said I wasn't surprised, like when they first mentioned her, like in like I think episode 7, when Crystal first mentioned her, that's when like I was like, oh, you guys are right. When she actually showed up, I wasn't the least bit surprised because they're all already sort of teasing it, where it seemed like the natural progression. Like, so as soon as they showed her face, I'm like, yes, of course, she's alive.
All right, yeah, you just mentioned Crystal, so let's go to that. Crystal is an amazing clone. She's such a dingbat.
Yes, I love Crystal's story because she has the story half wrong, and she has it half right. And it's like she's accidentally figuring stuff out, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, I'm a bit iffy about Crystal. That's actually one of the things I sort of complained about in my review of the finale, is because I like her as a character, but I really didn't like the way she reacted when she saw Sarah. That felt a bit fake to me, that she wouldn't at least, like, I totally get that she wouldn't understand the concept of clones, but I have at least acknowledged that Sarah looked like her. And I think, I don't know, to me, and some of the other, like earlier in the season where they were playing her off for comic relief, when it seems like her story is actually kind of tragic, when her like boyfriend was killed and all this stuff is happening around her that she doesn't understand. And it makes me feel protective of her, almost like a big brother, like the show is sort of picking on her and making fun of her when her story is actually kind of tragic. So I did like her as a character, but I just thought that I just wanted to see them bring her into the group and just tell her. And it's kind of frustrating to me that they're sort of just stringing her along and playing her too much like an imbecile, where I would rather they just have her join the main cast.
I agree. I would like to see her join the main story next season. But I actually kind of liked that, like how she was with Sarah, because her character, her entire personality so far on the show, she's very vain. And there are like scientific studies that say that if you were to meet somebody who looked exactly like you, you wouldn't really recognize them as you. Like if you were to meet yourself, you wouldn't recognize you as you, because you don't see yourself the same way as other people see you. So like I think the combination of her being extremely vain and then that aspect made it so that she was like, no, I don't look like her. What are you talking about?
I hope that they introduce her to all the other sisters as well. I'd like to see her with Cosima and Helena and all of them, and then she'd have to sort of see the similarity.
Oh God, I really want Crystal to meet Helena.
Oh my God!
I want that scene so much.
That would be good. That would be good.
I think Helena would like adopt her and be like, my poor child.
This is my baby sister.
My poor little
baby.
See,
Yeah, so overall, I do like her. I just don't like the way they've been sort of treating her storyline. I just want them to be to bring her on a bit more and make her more of a sort of main character, maybe a bit less dense. That's another complaint I sort of had about throughout the season about Donnie and Allison, who I like. I like Donnie, but sometimes I think they go a bit too overboard with the comic relief, and I think the same thing is true of Crystal. Like, she's funny, but sometimes I think they just overdo it a tad.
I agree with that on Crystal, especially like what you said about her story is very tragic with her boyfriend dying and that kind of stuff. So the fact that they do kind of pick on her a little bit, I'm kind of on board with that.
Yeah.
Donnie, on the other hand, a show like this, I think, needs that comic relief, and Donnie provides it so well that I hope they don't scale back the funny with him.
Yeah, like instead of
really?
Donnie, I think they should just bring Crystal in. Like, she should be forced to get into the group so that she no longer has the comedic relief, and just give it all to Donnie.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe. Like, I think Donnie's funny and I like his comic relief, but I don't know. I think sometimes they just overdo it and I get a tad sick of it. In particular, I was sort of like the masturbation and sex scenes. Like, I don't know. To me, I just didn't need to see those. That felt a bit uncomfortable.
I thought they were hilarious.
Oh, really? Oh,
well. Okay, let's see. What else? Oh, gosh. I totally lost my train of thought. What was... Mark, you take it, because I forgot what I was going to do next.
Yeah, I'm kind of forgetting what I was going to talk about as well.
I don't have my bullet points in front of me. I made them, and then I forgot them at work. So
He does that a lot.
I'm trying to go on memory.
Yeah, I think I brought up the points I wanted to.
Yeah, and we wanted to keep this video around 45 minutes. We're at 33 right now, so we can wrap it up here real soon. Let's move on to season 5. What do you hope to get from season 5?
Yeah, well, I think more of the same. Well, not sort of. I want, like, the resolution to be good to some of these pending storylines that we're still iffy about, like Kira and Westmoreland. I want them to have, like, really good payoff to those. And I want to see more NK as well. If they just, and like we said about Crystal, I want them to actually bring her in. And I like what you mentioned before about the, in your review about the transgender clone. It would be great to see him again and actually bring in sort of more clones, because in this episode, Kira mentioned that there's a lot of sisters that they don't even know about that are in danger. So they have this cure, and if they actually get the cure, they'll need to distribute it to all these unknowing clones. So it'd be great to see them sort of do that as well.
I imagine, like, if my dream finale for the final shot of the show would be just all the clones together in, like, a big room, and there's like 300 of them, and they're like in line getting shots, getting the cure.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, exactly what I want out of season 5, besides the obvious of, you know, I want good resolutions to all the stories that are going on, satisfactory explanations and all that. What I think might happen is I fear that Rachel might have screwed all of them over, and that next season might be all of the clones in as lab rats in a facility. Like, I think they're all going to be rounded up and put and start, like, doing trials, and it might be them trying to get out of that.
I also,
I don't feel about that.
I'm sorry. If we're going to do predictions, I imagine that there's more than one cell of clones who's fighting against Neolution and Dyad and Castor and all of those things. I imagine there's multiple groups. We've only gotten to see, as viewers, one of those groups. So I think it would be fun to spend a little bit of time with another cell, maybe if they meet up in, like, the lab, because I'd agree with that. I think Rachel and Neolution, they're going to round up as many of the clones as they can, and they are going to experiment on them.
Yeah.
Right, and maybe more. I'm not sure if there are more groups out there. I mean, you could be right, but maybe more groups would form from this rounding up that Rachel's going to do. And I think MK could play a major part in bringing these groups together and sort of enlightening them. Because if I remember correctly, didn't this season sort of indicate that MK was kind of responsible for bringing like Beth and Cosima and all them together in the first place?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I got out of it for sure.
Yeah, so she basically started the whole thing with Sarah and everyone.
Right. And I think once they do round up the clones, I think MK is going to be important into getting them out.
Yeah, I think MK. That's what I'm like. If they do the lab rat thing, I do hope that MK gets a significant amount of screen time and story getting them out.
I don't imagine she's going to get caught. Rachel, no. She's on the DL. She's off the radar. So I don't think they're going to find her to use her again, because they've already done it to her. They've already experimented on her. I don't think she's going to let that happen again.
Yeah. Yeah, and I liked how she's sort of, what's that guy's name? Ferdinand, I think? How she sort of blackmailed him and stole all his money. So she has all this money, apparently. Did they ever say what she did with that?
No. As far as we know, she bought an island.
Yeah, so it'd be pretty interesting to see, to see where they take that. Like I think I said earlier in my review that they missed an opportunity with MK to sort of, when they were having a problem with Evie, that she could have just like blackmailed her or something. But they might play that later in the future with maybe some of these members of Neolution, like that Dr. Van Leer or something. Maybe she'll come into play and sort of hold their money hostage and stuff like that and get them. Oh, no, it was Dooku. I thought that blackmailed Dooku, and that's another character I think we should talk about, Detective Dooku, because I was actually quite impressed with him.
Before we end the discussion, sure, we need to talk about Dooku. Wow, I hated that guy so much. It was a great character. I mean, he's a villain. Obviously, you're not supposed to root for him, but I don't think I've rooted against anybody that much since Joffrey.
Well, see, that's the thing. I think he was one of the show's best villains, because you're right. I totally hated this guy. He was such a douche. I was actually disappointed. Like, I was so happy when they killed him off. I was like, yes, he's getting his just desserts. But then I was like disappointed the next episode. I was like, oh, that means we don't see him anymore, because he was a really good driver for the story. I'm kind of lukewarm on Rachel. I don't know how I feel about her as a villain. I actually preferred people like Evie and Dooku, so I'm a bit disappointed that they killed them off. But yeah, it served season 4's purpose as well, so it was really good that way.
Yeah, I'm with you there on Rachel as a villain. Rachel seems a lot like Cersei to me, in that she's got this plan, but her plans are never really that great. They never really seem to work out for her.
Yeah, they always backfire. Like, this is going to backfire, and she's no longer going to be the villain. She's going to be a lab rat along with her seamstress.
Yeah, I was just saying, that thought didn't occur to me until I watched your review, and I thought that was a very astute observation, that she's being just like Cersei was with the Faith Militant. She's playing with fire, and it'll probably end up backfiring on her, and she'll end up just another lab rat. So, and it would be great to see her get her just desserts as well. I think maybe that's another thing I was kind of disappointed in the finale, but I might be jumping ahead, is because I wanted Sarah to kill her. I was like, kill her, Sarah. But yeah. That's probably coming later in season 5.
That would be one of my complaints about the finale, is Sarah goes to the compound to rescue Cosima and get the cure back, and then she goes there and promptly gets her ass kicked.
Yeah, like
I know, yeah.
As far away as possible from Susan. She's like, oh, hey, I'm halfway across the room and she's bleeding. Let me set my gun down right here and run to you. Yeah. Like, you can hold it.
Yeah, that's one of the things. That's one of the things I mentioned in my review, and I actually had a commenter saying they were yelling at the screen when she put the gun down. What are you doing? Why are you putting the gun down?
Yeah, everybody on TV should know by now, never put your gun down.
No.
If you're in a TV show, don't ever put your gun down. The bad guy's going to get you.
But the other observation I wanted to make about season 4 overall is that another reason why I really liked it so much is because, well, we kind of talked about it, but with season 3, like you said, all the plot lines were really convoluted and it's sort of gotten a bit too sort of out there. And I thought season 4 did a really good job of like bringing it back home and like toning it down, making it more easier to follow, more realistic. And so when we talk about hopes for season 5, that's what I hope. I hope they keep that tone, and I actually think that they will. So I have high hopes for that.
I think they listened to some of the feedback after season 3, because that was the big complaint. Was it was very convoluted and there was so much stuff going on. It was nearly impossible to follow.
Yeah.
And then season 4, they really streamlined it, and so I think they've listened to the feedback, and I think that'll continue in season 5. I really hope it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I talk about how I didn't quite believing sort of resurrection, but I'm okay with it. But comparing it to season 3, there's so many character changes I totally didn't buy. So season 4 was actually way better in that regard.
Okay, I think we've touched on basically everything. Does anybody else have anything to add?
No, I think that's everything.
Okay, I don't see anything in the chat for topics, so I think we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Season 4, Orphan Black, overall score. What do you think?
Oh, God, putting me on the spot. All right. So I did think about this. I'm sort of stuck between an 8 and a 9. Like, I sort of made it on a rule in my channel that I don't do like half points. I don't do 0.5s, but I would an 8.5. But I'm gonna have to choose. Maybe by next week I'll choose between an 8 or a 9. But that's roughly where I stick it.
Gosh, I would have to go 9.
Yeah, I think I would go 9 too. It was a really, really good season.
It was so good. This is one that I would rewatch.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I don't see myself going back and streaming season 3, probably ever.
Yeah.
I would season 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I think you're convincing me. I should give it a 9.
We're so manipulative.
I think I was just a bit less on the finale than you guys, so that's probably why I was holding back a tad bit. But I think you convinced me.
All right, I think that's pretty live discussion. Mark, do you want to give yourself a shout out?
Yeah. I cover Game of Thrones mostly, and also do old sort of retro reviews of Star Trek. And Black Sending, like these guys here, I'll also be covering Dark Matter when that starts, and I'll also be covering Mr. Robot, which is really cool.
All right, we actually have not checked out Mr. Robot yet. That's one that we are going to look into. I don't think we're going to review it. We're going to try and scale back our reviews. We're only going to do 4 for this summer.
I'd highly recommend at least checking it out, even if you're not going to review it. And hey, if you do check it out after season's 2 over, maybe we could do a discussion video about that.
This summer, we're covering Dark Matter, Killjoys, and we're continuing Outcast and Preacher. So that's what we're doing for this summer. And we'll do the occasional movie review as well. Here in the live chat, anybody who's still sticking around for it, we have a gigantic announcement to make for an upcoming video. We haven't hammered out the exact details yet, but he has agreed. We are getting Joe Malozzi, the creator and showrunner of Dark Matter, to do an interview.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So that's going to be coming. We're scheduled for this Friday at, this Friday at 7 p.m. is what we're planned for. Obviously, he's a very busy man, so that could change, but he's agreed to do it, and we're going to try to get him as well for a post-season interview as well when season 2 is over. So, yay!
Wow, that's pretty amazing. That is great news. Yeah, I can't wait to see that. That's amazing.
All right, so we're going to cap this thing off. Thank you guys all very much for watching. Be sure to check out Mark's channel, Enchantment of Eternity. Look at it right now. Just turn off the video and go look at it. He does great recaps and reviews of Game of Thrones and Walking Dead, all kinds of stuff. And like he said, the retro reviews of Star Trek, they're fantastic. So go check out Mark's channel. All right, and we're, of course, if you're on our channel watching this, we're Geeksiders. I'm Josh.
I'm Anna.
All right, that's it for this. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.